first level in each Sonic game does an incredible job of setting the stage for the adventure to come, and the best ones leave enough room for improvement to incentivize playthroughs even decades later. Where Super Mario runs through grassy plains over and over again, Sonic's got beaches, amusement parks, tropical islands, and cities, and with all the different gameplay styles in this franchise, they have to teach a lot more than running and jumping. Today, we're gonna look at the first level in every mainline Sonic game and rank them from peak to bleak. Green Hill Zone is the most iconic first level in the Sonic series, and we're going to be seeing it quite a few times today, but this OG version from the first Sonic game is monumental. It's fast-paced, lets you play with classic Sonic's trademark momentum, and is super satisfying to rip through in like 30 seconds. But yeah, that runtime is pretty meager, and there's not much replay value here, but it was an excellent introduction to Sonic's distinct gameplay style, and that makes it a good first level. Emerald Hill is really just a souped-up Green Hill. The environment's way more vibrant, there's more branching routes and replay value, and there's more enemies that want to hurt you. Since the first game was packed in with most Genesis consoles, this one exists assuming people played that first one, so it didn't need to take as long to establish itself and pick things up, leaving more meat on the bone for skilled players. The only thing really holding it back is the runtime. It takes around 30 seconds to beat again, and that's keeping it from a better placement. Palm Tree Panic has a very different vibe from the previous two. It's not nearly as energetic or upbeat sounding, and instead goes for a more atmospheric and complex sound that bleeds into every facet of it. Not only are there even more split routes, but there's also past and future signs that you can use to morph the stage into a prehistoric or polluted version of itself. It's sick. This gives you way more reason to go back and play it, just to see how the different time periods affect the stage layout and take in the new ambiance. It's not as iconic as the previous two, but putting Legacy aside, this is objectively the better stage. I know Sonic & Knuckles kicks off with Mushroom Hill, but in the complete Sonic 3 and Knuckles package, things start off with Angel Island Zone, which might be the best level yet. The lush greenery and natural landscape creates this great sense of adventure, and that mixed with the cool routes and secrets to find makes for a hell of a stage, and then halfway through it catches on fire for more visual variety. Nice. It also showcases this game's new shields, with one giving him a double jump, a bounce jump, and a mid-air charge, which feel great and are super fun to screw around with. It's a great first taste of what this entry tries to do differently, and sets up the rest of the narrative flawlessly, with Knuckles running off with your emeralds and the environments naturally progressing from one to the next. This is peak classic Sonic level design. Green Grove Zone is longer than the other ones, I'll certainly give it that, but it's also bad. The gameplay is not good to begin with. It feels like garbage, Sonic is impossible to control, and wandering around looking for flickies is the opposite of having fun. I gotta put this one in bleak. Emerald Coast is the first true 3D Sonic level, and it adapts the classic style to the third dimension remarkably well. Now, there's not as many different pathways as the older games, because that would be a massive freaking level and a bit overwhelming to beginners, so it's mostly kept as shortcuts, which is honestly perfect to start with. There's plenty of stuff for speedrunners to take advantage of, but it also offers a more enthralling first playthrough than any level before it, and that's mostly thanks to this series' first major spectacle moment. You're running across a rickety bridge, when a giant freaking whale starts chasing after you and destroying the path behind you. It's a super intense moment that feels awesome whether you're a newbie or a seasoned vet. It is lacking a bit in interaction, but the stage around it has plenty, from scaling this rock formation to running through a double loop-de-loop. It offers a good variety of obstacles and keeps it visually fun from start to finish, with a beach theming that's fully taken advantage of. This is one of Adventure's best action stages, and sets one hell of a precedent for the game to build upon. It's a clear-cut peak Sonic level. If you thought that last one was tier, you might want to sit down, because City Escape is the best first level in Sonic and one of the best levels period. No moment in the series transitions from cutscene to gameplay quite this smoothly. Sonic's wrongfully being held captive on a gun helicopter, and we see him take out everyone on board, then proceed to break out of the aircraft, pull off a piece of it, and hop down spiraling toward the streets of not San Francisco on its new board. It's fucking rad. And the gameplay starts off with him falling from the sky and landing on the slope streets, where you control him as he skis down and weaves through buildings and traffic, before ditching the board and continuing on by foot. The stage from there has plenty to keep you busy. There's trick ramps, rail grinding, acrobatics, Sonic running down the side of a building, the whole shebang. And like the last one, they had to add a chase scene, this time with a semi-truck that's taller than every building, and here it's almost like 30 seconds long, but at least there's some interaction unlike the previous one. Overall, the level design is stellar. It's fast, high octane, the music slaps, and there's lots of shortcuts and secrets you can only access access with late game upgrades, so there's replay value built into it. Do I need to say more? Peak. Neo Green Hill Zone is the introduction to Sonic Advance, and it's a very generic feeling stage. It's got some set pieces in common with the zone it's named after, but also this beach twist that makes it feel like a ripoff of both Green Hill and Emerald Coast. Now, it's got a pretty decent sized route tree and shows off gameplay that revives 2D Sonic pretty darn well, but this isn't the highlight of the game, though I'll give it some credit for at least having some replayability. It's good. Leaf Forest Zone ups the speed tremendously from the last one. It probably has the fastest flow of any first level, and still manages to take over a minute to beat, which is a solid length. There's just not much to it though. It feels like you're flying through with not a lot of input, and there's not a thing about it that makes it memorable. It's not a bad level, but it's pretty mediocre and bland. Meh. Seaside Hill had a pretty daunting task at hand. It had to introduce an entirely different style of play that added a ton of complexity to gameplay, but all things considered, it pulls it off surprisingly well. The stage gives you plenty of opportunities to switch up characters, but doesn't really force your hand much, allowing multiple routes and solutions for a majority of obstacles. It eases you into this character swap mechanic, and by the end, your instinct is to switch to Knuckles for bigger robots and Tails for reaching that higher ground. It's great. Now, the theming on paper seems a little redundant, another beachside introduction, but the look and feel is completely distinct, and it remains one of the most iconic environments in the series. There are some weirder moments like this little kart racer thingy, but overall, it does a phenomenal job at teaching in an engaging way and having plenty of room to get through faster and faster, so there's no better spot than here for it. Route 99 is way more advanced than any other intro in this trilogy. Get it? Advanced? The level's longer than the previous two combined and has so much more to offer, with more traps, platforming, and stage gimmicks. It's not too fast like Advance 2, but still has some quick moments, and where Advance 1's Neo Green Hill felt pretty stale, this one stands out from the series as a whole. Obviously, City Escape also takes place in a city, shocker, but this one feels much more dense and urban, and captures the hustle and bustle a lot better, thanks to a colorful skyline in the backdrop and a chiptune banger playing while you're running through. I'm down to give it a lot of credit. There's plenty of ways to tackle it, and it's fresh as hell, highly replayable. Westopolis in Shadow the Hedgehog starts with 20 seconds straight of just falling, and the level still barely goes up from there. Now, it does do what a first level should do, and teaches you those new mechanics, like picking up guns and shooting guns, but there's an abundance of enemy waves to wipe out, and almost nothing that Sonic fans come back to this series for. It's grim, grindy, alien gory, and only gives you a taste of speed here and there as a reward for your mass slaughter. Honestly though, that's more a problem with the game as a whole. This serves its purpose as a first level and an all-around mad game. Leaf Storm is the first ever Boost Sonic level, and it's not all that memorable. Visually, it looks like a more detailed version of Advance 2's Leaf Forest Zone, and a playthrough feels quite similar too, with both games having you zooming through a lot of set pieces and straightaways, and with that new boost, it leans into that even more, but at least it makes sense for this one. Still, you can hold forward and boost to get through like 90% of it with little disruption. It's pretty meh. Wave Ocean is a mixed bag of a level because it has some notoriously broken moments, but also some really nice design features. The opening phase is probably the best. It feels a lot like Emerald Coast, both because it brings back the exact same level theme and because the f***ing whale makes a comeback. But the split routes are done really well, and if you've got good reaction time, you're taking shortcuts and avoiding most of the robot waves. But then Sonic hangs onto the whale for God knows why, and you switch to Tails for a short time, and while his combat abilities suck, his flying is kind of fun, and the segment doesn't last longer than a minute. But then commences the Mach Speed segment, and I always thought the concept made sense. Instead of filling core levels with straightaways, save it for a separate moment with its own entirely different challenges. But yeah, it doesn't work here. It's bugged and just kind of boring, even if you're moving at top speeds, but since the game's littered with these, as a first level, it's gotta introduce it, so I won't knock it too much. I think it's still a good stage, and I'd play it over any of the ones ranked below it for sure. Even though you ride a jet ski beforehand, the first traditional Sonic level is Plant Kingdom, and I'm not gonna lie, it kinda slaps. The music is S tier, the environment blends a beach with a forest, and incorporates different plants as stage elements. Mwah. Even though it's a boost level and has a lot of straight sections, there's a really high skill ceiling, and the flow can be pretty great. I think it's lively, fresh, upbeat, and highly replayable, so... The Windmill Isle everyone remembers is Act 2, which is superior in almost every way, but the true first level is the previous act, and it's by no means bad, but it's not nearly as special as the other one. That'd be going elite right away. This one takes place on the outskirts of Apotos, and has you mostly running through a field that looks ridiculously detailed. Seriously, this game is gorgeous. However, it's a pretty bare-bones introduction to all your new mechanics, but the nice part is that despite kinda wanting to hold your hand, if you dodge the question marks, you can avoid all the over-tutorializing, which makes it much more tolerable. It ends by having you cross a bridge to the city itself, where you get a feel for the quick step for the first time, and it helps in these speedier moments so freaking much, oh my god. I hate to do it to him because the good stuff is right after this, but by definition, the first level is pretty meh. Splash Hill Zone is as generic as it possibly could be. It's Green Hill, except the gameplay is terrible, there's no momentum physics, and it drags more than any game before it. There is more platforming than most of these other stages, which isn't in itself a bad thing, but how uncreative and slow it is a bad thing. This is bleak. Tropical Resort Act 1 is easily one of the most visually unique first levels. An amusement park up in outer space brings so much potential, and just this first level shows a lot of promise of what they're gonna deliver with the game. Layout-wise though, it falls a bit flat. It very intentionally introduces different enemies and scenarios to teach you your moves, and also throws in unavoidable tutorial prompts, and they completely halt gameplay to tell you some way too obvious shit. It does back off sometimes though, letting you rail grind on your own to take in the scenery, and just casually transitioning from 3D to 2D here and there to warm me up to the idea, since the game does it quite often when it wants to pick up platforming. As the first 3D Sonic game exclusive to Nintendo, they wanted to appeal to Mario fans and ease people over to this series gradually, so the approach makes sense, and it remains a good first stage. Green Hill Zone Act 1 is the classic Sonic version of this level, and it is pretty okay. I'll give it some props. It is the nicest looking iteration of this iconic course, and the scenery and spectacle moments are right up there with more modern courses. Layout-wise, there's a good bit of complexity to it. It's got faster routes and some decent platforming, but also some parts where you just stand still. Now, there are ways to avoid these slower parts, which is key to a good Sonic level, but there's hardly any incentive to go back and play again. There's nothing memorable here, most stages after this are better in every way, and odds are you're getting an S rank on your first run through, so why bother replaying it? It's probably the nicest looking med tier we've seen. Sylvania Castle Zone is a pretty refreshing first level, especially after what the first episode offered. It takes place in these forested castle ruins and has pretty clean scenery, but doesn't play very well. It's got classic straightaways and set pieces, but then these walls that completely stop you and make you use a new mechanic, whether it be tails picking you up or the spin dash opening a door. They're pace breakers, and the level otherwise is mid, though it is a step in the right direction compared to the first episode. Windy Hill Zone 1 is pretty much a cylindrical Green Hill Zone, except with a run button, more mechanized environments, and the stupid cloud section that you inch your way out of. There's really nothing all that interesting about it. Even the unique level structure isn't fully taken advantage of. There's hardly any opportunities to go around the cylinder, and it's more of an aesthetic than anything. Honestly, there's no real flow to it. It's a generic platforming stage, and there's no replay value either, beyond the red rings, leaving little reason to go back and play ever again. So, bleak. They did it again. The first 20 to 30 seconds are a carbon copy of the original Green Hill Zone, and after that, they incorporated some elements from later acts, then topped it off with a boss fight that's pretty well designed, but not all that. It's a good level, but it literally clones another one, so I can't be too generous. Meh. I hate Sonic Forces, and Lost Valley is a key reason why. It's one of the worst designed levels in the history of this series. Forces in general has the worst selection of stages, but this one stands out even among those as downright pointless. It's another Green Hill Zone, but this time they put some sand in there, whoop-de-frickin'-do, and the gameplay is straightaways, automation, and one or two jumps. I'll give it this, the music is killer, but playing this level literally kills me. Bleak. I'm not sure what to count as the first level in Sonic Frontiers. I could rank the entire first island, but that's not really fair. I could do the first couple of minutes, but that doesn't feel right either, so instead, let's make it the first cyberspace level. None of these are all that good, and one in particular is yet another Green Hill, and while the backdrop being a digital void is somewhat new, it's a very bleak stage. Bridge Island Zone certainly gets things back on track. It still has strong first level vibes, but feels almost like a 2D Seaside hill. The design is relatively intricate, there's plenty of ways to go, and new walls you can run up the side of. They brought back a friggin' sea creature that attacks you, but this time it treats it more like a boss fight, and that makes it a bit more interactive. The 15-second automated section slap dab in the middle is crazy, but everything else is honestly quite good. It's a solid first level. The Space Colony Ark is fantastic. It turned one of the hardest levels from Adventure 2 into a beginner-friendly, yet decently complex stage. It teaches the chaos control mechanic and gives you opportunities for shortcuts if you use it correctly, which feel rewarding and not overbearing. It's more linear than other 3D stages, not having all that many branching routes, but there's lots to learn about it, and some sections where it really opens up and gives you freedom. The only downside is the scripted events. It makes the first playthrough feel that much more intense, but trying to speedrun it many times over, it makes you sit through a lot of dialogue and spectacles that look super trippy and creative, don't get me wrong, but do drag that runtime to ungodly amounts. That's honestly the one thing holding it back. It really could cut back on the cinematics and focus more on this stellar level design and gameplay. But even with that said, it's still highly replayable. And there you have it. But which first level is your favorite? Leave your picks down in the comments. For me, my number one is and always will be City Escape. Nostalgia? Probably, but either way, check out this video next, where I rank the soundtrack of every Sonic game. Thanks for watching.